Hello, and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Headlines. This is the first one from Spartanburg. I'm excited to bring Post and Courier Spartanburg to the Post and Courier's Beyond the Headlines series. Since this is our first discussion about Spartanburg, I wanted to take a few moments at the start to introduce ourselves in case you haven't met us before. My name is Ryan Gilchrest. I'm managing editor. I've been a journalist for about 23 years, all across the Southeast. And managing editor for the past 10 years at various newspapers. I've been in the upstate now for a little over a year and really excited to continue to grow Post and Courier's efforts here in the upstate. Before we get started with our topic, which we're going to be talking about growth, business, and development in Spartanburg County, I do want to introduce the reporter we'll primarily be talking to today, Chris Lavender. Chris, welcome, and tell the folks a little about what you do.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I cover Spartanburg in Spartanburg County. Primarily, I write about growth and development and also cover the Spartanburg City Council. I've been a reporter for 18 years, working for newspapers in Maryland, North Carolina, and I've been in Spartanburg for the last 6 years covering the city.
Great. So happy to have you and introduce you to folks. We're also going to introduce you to our other Spartanburg reporter, Asia Rollins, a little bit later on. So stay tuned for that. Looking forward to you meeting her as well. Let's get back to the topic at hand. It is a time of unprecedented growth across South Carolina, maybe in a lot of ways, nowhere more so than Spartanburg County, particularly in certain aspects. Chris, you've seen a lot of that. You've been in Spartanburg for several years and have seen that growth, and you've done some reporting on it as well. Why don't you give us the big picture? Give me a sense of what's happening in Spartanburg and Spartanburg County and what's ahead.
The big picture in Spartanburg County is since January 1, there's been a total of $1.3 billion pledged in investments by a variety of companies, which equates to 3,400 jobs. So really for 2021, there's been a lot of growth, not only in the county, but also in the city.
Now, I know there's a lot of other impacts from that growth as well, some of which you've done some reporting on, including residential growth and infrastructure issues and various other things that the city and county are going to have to be dealing with. We're going to get back to that in just a few minutes. But first, I wanted to touch on something you've done quite a bit of reporting on already in your time with Post and Courier. And that's to get right downtown and talk about the section of West Main Street that's been closed off adjacent to Morgan Square. Now, I know there's a lot of different layers to this, but can you give us a little bit of an overview? And then we'll talk a bit about what happens next.
Okay, when the pandemic first struck in 2020, the city council decided to close a section of West Main Street near Morgan Square temporarily. And as time went on, the city and One Spartanburg did several studies that showed there was an increase not only in foot traffic, but revenues for restaurants in the square and in the surrounding areas. So earlier this year in April, they decided to extend that temporary closure until August. Well, in August, they decided, the city council that is, to go ahead and keep that section closed to vehicles and expand it for a pedestrian zone for another year. And during that year, they're going to evaluate what to do next.
Now, not everyone, I know the majority of folks who answered the survey seemed to be in favor of keeping it closed. I believe it was 55% that responded in favor of keeping it closed permanently. Not everybody feels the same way on that, though, right? You've talked to some retailers, and some of them feel pretty strongly the other direction.
That is correct. There are some retailers on East Main Street who would prefer to see that street reopened to create a even traffic flow up and down East Main Street and West Main Street.
And that's mostly because I know some of them cited that they've seen a drop in revenue. Is that correct?
They have. There are a few businesses that actually responded to the city survey that their revenues had declined as a result of that temporary street closure.
Right. Now, for those who may not be familiar, I assume most of the people on this webcast are, but in case you're not, this is right downtown. It's a street that borders sort of a triangular shaped park right in the middle of town. And since the pandemic, it's mostly had tables on it, right? Been a walking area. So it is kind of an interesting spot, but it does cut a road in half. So there's always that. We got a couple of listener questions, I suppose, for the purposes of today. Chris, and I want to hit those sort of quickly before we talk a little more about the subject. Do we know if there are any plans to add more handicapped accessible parking close to the square?
I talked to the city, and right now what they've done is when that street was closed, they lost one handicap parking space. And what they did is they created 3 more. So they created 2 additional handicap parking spaces towards the Daniel Morgan statue, and the other handicap parking space is up further on West Main Street at the top of the Morgan Square.
Okay, so for now it's a net increase. What is the total cost to the city of renting chairs, tables, et cetera, to keep the portion of the street closed?
Talking to the city, they said that the tables and chairs are provided by the restaurants themselves. Now, the tents that were provided, I believe, during the summer were provided by the city, but the city is no longer going to provide those tents. Some of the restaurants were able to plug into the electrical outlets on the poles for fans over the summer. And Christopher George from the city said that the city pays a flat fee for those poles. So that's what the latest is on that. He didn't have the information for me as far as the cost to plug into those poles.
Okay. All right. And what other options have been considered to enhance Morgan Square in downtown without permanently having to close Main Street?
Right now, with the street closed for another year, the city is going to evaluate as a whole what to do next. They are leaning towards trying to redesign the square. There's going to be a lot of community partners who are going to be involved in that process over the next year or two. So other than what they're currently doing, they're going to move forward and focus on a possible redesign of the square.
Right. There's a lot of different interests at play here. Obviously, the city, the restaurants, the retailers, the residents. I know even some groups have formed, hoping to make sure they preserve their piece of it. I know one in particular was to make sure the trees around Morgan Square didn't cut down. It's a complicated situation, right? What happens? What's the discussion going to look like over the next year before they get to the point where there has to be a decision made on this again?
Well, the city plans to, I believe, talk to some professionals to help steer the process, but they're also, of course, going to heavily rely on community input. They keep saying that it is the public square, and they want to have public input to decide on what to do next.
Sure, that would make sense. I think the survey was almost 3,500 respondents the first time around. So pretty significant amount of community input. All right, so we'll definitely continue to cover that topic and stay tuned on that. We'll definitely do more reporting there. Let's stay on the topic of roads, but expand out just a little bit. Just this last weekend, you wrote about county council moving down the path of approving a vote on second reading to repeal the $25 road fee. What's the story behind that? And is that a done deal?
I believe it is a done deal. It sounds like it's going to have unanimous support to repeal that at the next Spartanburg County Council meeting. Back in 2006, the County Council uh, put that in place to help generate more funds annually, and it's been able to generate between $6 to $7 million a year, and all of that money has gone towards road maintenance and repair. Uh, it's been an unpopular fee of $25 on people's vehicle registration tax bills, and this may or may not have a part in it, but recently the South Carolina Supreme Court made a ruling in a case in Greenville County that fee, which they also charged $25 was not a fee, but it was basically an illegal tax. So there was already some interest on the Spartanburg County Council to do away with that fee, which it looks like it's going to become reality here in a matter of weeks.
And if you're interested in more background on that, Post and Courier Greenville reporter Nathaniel Carey's done quite a bit of coverage on the Supreme Court's decision in Greenville County, who obviously had two different fees invalidated, including a telecommunications fee ruled as an illegal tax. So if you're interested in the background on that, that's available on our website as well. Obviously that fee has been used to maintain, pave, and build up infrastructure in the county. But just a month or two ago, you reported that the county was not just looking to maintain the status quo with roads and infrastructure, but actually increase the amount of work they're doing. Again, sort of getting back to what we talked about before about growth. It's probably a necessity. Does the repeal of this fee, does the removal of this fee impact that at all? And is the county still planning to do that?
The county recognizes that really for decades, the infrastructure as far as roads go has fallen behind. And with the unprecedented growth that's happening in the county now, they recognize the need to kind of step up and do more. So what they've done is in the last couple of months, they approved a plan to spend about $113 million over the next 5 years to upgrade and maintain the road system. And they're going to do that by issuing bonds in 2022 and 2024 to pay for the project. They've said while they'll miss the $67 million that was generated by the road fee, it was time for that road fee to go, and they have made plans and are prepared to move forward with the road infrastructure improvements through the $113 million, about $113 million spending plan.
Okay. And that represents, I think, if I remember correctly from your reporting, that represents something close to a doubling of what was being spent before. Is that correct?
That is correct. They were spending between, say, $8 to $9 million a year, maybe just a little bit more than that. But now they're going to start spending closer to $20 million a year on road projects.
Sure. Yeah. And I think all of us who spend any time on the roads, not just in Spartanburg County, but really anywhere in the upstate, understand that infrastructure is certainly a major issue for us. Chris, very quickly, I know this is, we didn't discuss this beforehand, but you did just report on this yesterday. Jumping over to the interstate quickly, the barriers that have been a problem on Interstate 85 that caused multiple accidents, those are coming down this week, correct?
They are. The first 5 miles are being taken down this week. They should be down by September 15th. There's been a number of accidents, some fatal along that stretch between mile marker 81 and 91. It's part of a widening project for Interstate 85. But after a triple fatal crash on July 15th, there was more emphasis placed, especially by the Cherokee County coroner, Dennis Fowler, to have those chutes removed. So the first 5 miles are coming down by September 15th. I did speak to the Transportation Secretary late yesterday, Christy Hall, and she mentioned that the remainder of the 5 miles that are going to be taken down, that won't actually happen until later this year. So that's where we're at with the shoot.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously a vital widening project. We've all been caught in the traffic and the bottleneck up there, and um, referencing it now because widening I-85 between Charlotte and Spartanburg is certainly pretty important to the overall growth picture. So good to see that some of those sort of dangerous construction issues are being taken care of. Let's shift back downtown briefly and talk a little bit more about some of the other things that are going on. There's some pretty significant projects in progress or coming up. And I think I'm just going to kind of let you address them in your own time, but a lot of construction and development going on in downtown Spartanburg right now. Can you kind of hit the highlights for us?
Yes, like you mentioned, there's a number of projects happening downtown and throughout the city. Actually, you have the Fitzgerald, which is going to be about 130 unit apartment structure on East Kennedy Street. They're slated to finish that by late 2022. An interesting part of that project is about 10% of those units are going to be affordable housing. So that's something that the city is definitely placing more emphasis on, trying to bring more affordable housing within the downtown area. There's a number of projects actually happening and have been happening on the north side of the city over the past several years. There's the north side townhomes that are being developed by John Montgomery's group. And so that's going to include also 25% of that is also going to be affordable housing. So there's just a lot happening in the north side as well. There's also going to be a new hotel that's going to go up next to the Montgomery building near St. John Street. So there's just a lot happening, and there's going to be a lot more happening in the future as far as growth and development in Spartanburg.
And for those of you who might be interested in more, Chris just published a story today about some of the stuff that's going on the north side. And obviously it's going to be that and the courthouse and ultimately the municipal complex and all the other things. It's a part of a long series of projects that should pretty significantly change downtown. I see a number of folks have popped in with questions in the Q&A. We're going to get to those as we can. One that's worth mentioning right now is a reference to a survey that One Spartanburg did. We mentioned them earlier. We were talking about Morgan Square surveying residents. So certainly can check that out at onespartanburginc.com. And I think we've referenced that in the past. But there's some more information there, and we'll get to these other questions in a minute. Let's see how we doing on time. We're doing okay on time. Chris, let's talk a little bit more. Following up on what I just said, it's a new survey, not the one we referenced before, the One Spartanburg survey. So that's an important distinction to make. Let's talk just another minute or two about some of the development stuff going on downtown. Maybe not even downtown, but sort of downtown adjacent. We had a question from a reader about affordable housing. You mentioned the Fitzgerald has an affordable housing component. I know some of the stuff on the north side's got affordable housing components built in as well. How much is that part of the discussion, with development folks and city folks and some of the others involved as Spartanburg sort of builds out its in-city housing?
It's definitely something that's part of the discussion, and they recognize, I believe, that in the past, maybe not as much emphasis has been placed on that. Really, until recently, there wasn't much happening as far as new housing coming to downtown. I think the city had mentioned to me just several years ago, they had maybe 400 to 500 housing units downtown, and they're projected to go well over 2,000 units within the downtown and just the surrounding areas around downtown. So as far as affordable housing, they're definitely trying to put more emphasis on agreements with developers that come in to try to add a portion of affordable housing to those various projects. But there's definitely they will acknowledge there's definitely more room to grow as far as providing more affordable housing, but they think they're at a good start right now.
Yeah, Spartanburg's almost weirdly at an advantage here in that there is wasn't a ton of in-city like downtown housing already. So as they build it out, they're able to sort of work from a more open standpoint. Does that sound about right?
That does, yeah. They're definitely it's definitely part of the mix as far as new developments that are happening now or proposed. They definitely want to try to include some component of affordable housing to it.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and I want to bring in our other reporter, Asia Rollins, give you a chance to meet her. Then we're going to bounce back and handle a couple more questions. Asia, go ahead and turn on your video, and let's give folks a chance to see you. Asia just joined us a little more than a month ago. I'm going to let her tell you about herself, but Asia, welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asia Rollins. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I just graduated from Hampton University's Scripps Howard School of Journalism in May, and I got here in August, and I'm so thankful. I work with a really good team, and I'm very excited to be working in Spartanburg. I'm from the Midwest. Everyone down south is really friendly, so I'm just excited for what my first real job will bring.
All right, we're excited to have Asia here. It's really great to build out this team, and I know Chris feels the same way. And to be able to bring the Post and Courier into Spartanburg and to make sure that we're adding Spartanburg to part of the overall state discussion and telling folks about some of the things that are going on here. Immediately after we get done with this today, Chris and Asia and I are sitting down and talking more about strategy and long-term planning, and really looking forward to over the coming months and years to making you part of that discussion and sharing that with you. So we should only see coverage grow from there. So excited for that. If you ever need to reach out to us, all of us are first initial last name at postandcourier.com. If you want to email us, you can find our contact information very easily online as well. If you just search for Ryan Gilchrest, Chris Lavender, or Asia Rollins. We're always happy to hear from readers and look forward to anything you have to share with us, including story tips and ideas. So let's get back to, and Chris, I'll put you on the spot with a couple of these questions and see if you can answer them.
Okay.
Readers, if we can't answer them for you now, we'll definitely get back to you. So have one here related to, and this gets back to the West Main Street thing, Chris. A viewer who's asking, several years ago, there was an idea to put a pedestrian crossing across the street. They said they couldn't do it because it was a state highway. The section of West Main we're talking about, who controls that road? That's a city road, or that's a state road? Who has ultimate say over that piece?
I'm not 100% sure, so I'd rather not say. But with the city making the moves that they've made, I would be inclined to say that it's city maintained, but I would have to make a call to verify that 100%.
Okay, all right, we'll check on that one and obviously see if there's any new information to bring to light there. There's another one about emergency vehicles. Has having that section of the street closed hindered access of emergency vehicles at all?
Based on the discussions that I've heard, it has not, but what they plan to do, if they do decide to keep that stretch of street potentially permanently closed, they're going to have it in a way where they can get emergency vehicles in and out easily. I've heard them speak on that topic several times at the last couple of city council meetings, that they definitely want to have a way to get emergency vehicles in and out.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, there's all sorts of potential options as far as how to close off the street. It could be bollards that are raised and lowered. It could be any number of ways that could still provide access to that street when needed. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Obviously, access of emergency vehicles is something that everyone is concerned about. And again, for those who maybe don't necessarily know that street specifically, it is a pretty short section. It's probably, I'd say maybe 150 yards or so. Probably not much longer than that, right, Chris?
Yes, it's basically one block.
Yeah.
It's very short.
So we'll keep an eye on that. The other question we have here is someone asking about basically some verification of what the retailers have said about lost revenue, whether they've showed any data to back up that claim. And have you seen anything along those lines or heard from the city anything along those lines?
The retailers, of course, have been tracking their own numbers, and of course, the survey says one thing. Now, the survey did mention that some of the retailers acknowledged that they had been losing money. So I believe some of the retailers are actually losing some money. Now, have they shown me their books? No, but I definitely think it's had a definite impact on some of the retailers, specifically on the East Main Street side.
Okay. Yeah. And again, obviously we're going to do a lot more reporting on this. And, there are all sorts of ways to track that sort of thing, including, publicly available tax stuff and everything else. So we will definitely check more deeply into that. Again, obviously it's a pretty layered issue, and we will continue to report on that as time goes by. That's about all the time we have today. And I think we've gotten most of the questions answered. If there's anything we did not answer for you, if you have additional questions after this is over, definitely reach out to Chris or me or Asia. We're happy to hear from you. You'll see us around a lot more. We'll definitely do more of these in the future. We will post the recording of this on our website in case you want to watch it again or share it with someone. You can find that at postandcourier.com/beyond-the-headlines, or you can search for Beyond the Headlines Post and Courier on the search engine of your choice. You'll find it very easily. You can definitely support our work by signing up for any of our free upstate newsletters. Go to postandcourier.com/Spartanburg. Look for the newsletters drop down up at the top of the page. Definitely sign up for those. We've got Spartanburg specific letters. We've got business and development letters. We've got real estate newsletters coming. We will, there's dozens of Post and Courier newsletters that you might find interesting. So definitely check that out. Paid subscribers make our brand of journalism possible and help us keep our communities informed. We would appreciate your support. You can best support us by subscribing to the Post and Courier. Please visit postandcourier.com/Spartanburg/subscribe. Check out our latest offer. New subscribers can get 4 months for $4. I promise you that's about as good a deal as you're ever going to get. $4, check us out for 4 months. We would love to have you join up. You can also support our investigative efforts. Postandcourier.com. Some of you have seen the Uncovered series and other things along those lines. There's absolutely a way to jump on and help us in a charitable manner. Postandcourier.com. Look for near the top of the page a link to make a donation. There are several investigative efforts that you could participate in and help out with. That's all. On behalf of Chris, Asia, and the entire Post and Courier team, thank you for your time. We'll see you again soon. See you next time.